Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live off of dividend income, to have a dividend portfolio that paid you $8, $9, or $10,000 a month? In this video, I'm going to show you a custom dividend portfolio I put together in M1 Finance and also extrapolate what would happen if I were to consistently invest into this portfolio over the next 30 years. But first, what even are dividends? Dividends are a monthly, quarterly, or semi-annual payment that you receive for simply owning shares of a stock. Currently, 389 of the 500 companies in the S&P 500 pay a dividend, with an average dividend yield of 1.67%. Furthermore, over the last 40 years, 71% of all market returns have come from dividends. Let that sink in for a bit before I show you my M1 Finance portfolio. Okay, here we are on the home page of my M1 Finance portfolio. Currently, I have about $14,000 invested, and I'm planning to increase that in a major way over time. And I'm going to scroll to the bottom of the page here. And the great thing about M1 Finance is it essentially allows you to create this pie that consists of different stocks. And the way I did it is I divided it into different areas of the economy. So everything from energy to healthcare to technology and industrial. So this really allowed me to pick stocks in these different sectors and diversify and pick stocks with high dividend yields. With that, we will go into the specific stocks that make up the entire portfolio. Okay, we're now on the holdings page of my M1 Finance portfolio. You'll see I have 75 positions across those different sectors that I shared earlier. I'll now scroll through the page so you can see the tickers of all these different stocks. So let's do that right now. You'll see a lot of blue chip names that you're probably familiar with, and then also some that you may not be familiar with. So I'm just going to scroll through these holdings in this video, but if you have interest in seeing every single holding and the dividend yield that pertains to each stock, let me know in the comments, and I'm happy to put together a spreadsheet that goes into detail about each of these companies. But for now, just going to scroll through here so you guys can see all the tickers, and we're coming to the bottom here of the 75. And with that, let's continue. Okay, now we're on the My Pies section of M1 Finance, and you'll see my portfolio here, and it shows the profile down below, 75 holdings with a dividend yield of 3.484. And the big one here is this comes at a 0% expense ratio. You can buy pre-made ETFs and mutual funds that are put together by Vanguard or Fidelity, but by doing that, Vanguard or Fidelity is going to take a percentage of your money every year, regardless if the fund makes or loses money. So again, dividend yield of 3.484%. I mentioned earlier that the S&P 500 has a dividend yield of 1.67%. So we're beating the S&P 500 by about 2 percentage points. And this dividend yield could be higher, but I did include some tech stocks, some diversified stocks that have lower dividend yields that have the potential to appreciate in value. So I'm really happy with this about 3.5% yield because I think I'm going to get share price appreciation and really good dividend yield as well. So this will really, I think, help me in the long term to really capitalize on gains and dividends. So with that, let's see what would happen if I were to invest in this portfolio over 30 years. Okay, now we're on our dividend calculator page you'll see here, and there are a couple assumptions that are going to need to be inputted to determine my return. So you'll see starting principal of $14,000, showed you guys that earlier in my M1 Finance portfolio, and I'm assuming that I'm going to make a annual contribution to this fund of $12,000, so $1,000 a month, and I can certainly do that, and I think anybody can do that. So a conservative contribution, and as I mentioned earlier, 3.484% dividend yield, and we're also assuming that the dividends of these stocks are going to increase by 2% per year, and the share prices are going to appreciate by 4%. So I think both of those estimates are conservative considering the stocks I've picked of these 75 holdings. So let's see what would happen if we followed this strategy. So you'll see here with these graphs a great linear increase over time, and if we put our cursor on the graph here, you'll see that the portfolio balance will be over $1.5 million in 30 years with a dividend income of about $90,000 a year. So with that, certainly enough to retire off of, to live off of, and I think this really just exemplifies the power of dividends. Lastly, I'm going to show you guys this table down here, which does show how much you're going to be making annually in dividends, and that increases with time. So you see here in year one that if I do not invest any more into this portfolio, I'm going to have about $500 this year from dividends, which is great. I'm essentially doing nothing other than buying these stocks. And then as we increase with time, that annual dividend is going to increase to about $15,000 a year in year 15. And then as we go from year 15 to year 30, this is where it really gets good and really starts to pick up. And as I mentioned earlier, in year 30, you're going to be having $90,000 a year. So again, shows the power of compound interest. Anybody can do this. You just need to remain disciplined. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If so, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know. Do you guys want to see the dividend yields of individual stocks? Happy to make a video on that if you do. Thanks for checking me out, and peace.